Hello everybody, this is JG and I am back with another video. So today, I know I've covered this in probably a few of my other videos. I wanted to make a dedicated video for this to talk about the basics of port forwarding and how to port forward and some issues you may come across with port forwarding. So first of all, before we actually go in and try to port forward some stuff, I need to talk about firewalls first. Firewalls are basically like a sheet of plastic, and for you to allow any services through, you need to poke holes in that plastic, and that's what ports are. Ports are certain numbers basically that you type in to allow a certain program to pass through the firewall. So that's why you need to port forward for like Minecraft servers, TeamSpeak servers, and stuff like that. Any services you provide, you need to poke a hole and tell it where to go, basically. So first of all, you need to port forward, you need to have a router access. So I'm going to go to my router, and you need to know your router's address. So this is my router. It is the only router I have, because if you have multiple routers on the same network and you're routing yourself through two of them, port forwarding isn't going to work correctly unless you know what you're doing. So I would always recommend starting with one router, and you're going to have to go ahead and log in. You need to know your admin password and stuff like that. So if your parents have it, or I know I've come across that a lot, that they don't give it to you, you need to contact your ISP or reset your router and use default. So basically, all routers are going to look the same in some way. There's going to be a firewall option or a security option, something like that. So you're going to want to navigate to that. And then virtual servers, port forwarding, ports, something like that. I've seen it called virtual servers, and I've seen it called port forwarding in multiple different routers. But on this one, it's called both of that. So you're going to want to navigate to that, and then it's going to show you a list of stuff that you have port forwarded. For me, I've got my VPN, TeamSpeak, Minecraft. So basically, you will want to add whatever thing. You're going to give it a description. It's going to ask you for something. You're going to want to keep this nice and organized. So name it what service, what port it requires, and you're going to keep that on the local port and the inbound port. For the basic port forwarding, you're going to want to know what protocol it uses. And then you need a private IP address. What this basically means is the internal IP address you want it to point to. So let's say you're hosting a TeamSpeak server and it's hosted on 10.2.7.0, and that is the internal IP of the server you're hosting it on, not your external IP. So you're going to want to, let's say it's port 444. You're going to want port 444 to point to this IP address using this protocol. And let's say that is Minecraft, which that isn't the real IP, the real port for Minecraft, but I'm just saying it is. So you're basically going to want to name it. This is what you know. Give it a port to point to a certain IP address. So that is basically what you're going to want to do. Say here, Minecraft, and then I've labeled that. I'm using the default Minecraft port. This is the protocol for Minecraft. This is the internal server it's hosted on, and this is the local port. So you're going to want to make sure to match local and inbound port unless you know what you're doing and you know why you're changing it. So let's talk about some issues that can arise with this. I know a lot of people have issues with this, and one of the major issues I always come across is the fact that a lot of ISPs are building routers into their modems. So you go ahead, get a modem from the ISP thinking it's just a modem and it's just your internet access, when in reality it has a whole router set up and firewall. So when you put another router on it, it will not port forward correctly because you have to port forward on both of them and route it through two routers, which is always a pain. So what I went ahead and did is just remove my other router and started using my modem router settings, and I can also have my wireless networks here and everything else. And if you want to keep using your router, let's say one of the routers I have, I need to log into that. This is, don't look at my passwords. This, I have it in a bridged mode. And bridge mode basically makes this just act like an access point and has no firewall, nothing to help. So you can bridge it, or you can just go ahead and get rid of your routers and use your ISPs if you can. I would recommend bridging it if you know what you're doing. Or another option would be connect the server computer directly to the modem and forward through that. And the second biggest issue that I come up with is people mixing up internal and external IPs. So when you do ipconfig here on command prompt, you get your internal IP. So basically this is your Ethernet adapter. If you are connected via Ethernet, this is what you're going to want to look at. There will be other things. If you have a VPN, if you have a wireless adapter, you're going to go on which one you're using for the service. So here's my IPv4 address. For this tutorial, we're going to ignore IPv6 because this hasn't been fully implemented in every area. And in my area, it is strictly IPv4 addresses. So I'm still on that. And my external IP address is an IPv4. So here we have, this is IP version 4, which is these numbers. The reason people are moving to IPv6 is because they're running out of numbers to give to people. So IPv6 is a lot more complicated, so you can add billions and billions and billions of more people on that instead of just IPv4. So here's my internal address, and this is not my external address. My external address you would find by just Googling what's my IP address, and it will come up your public IP address is this, and this is your internal. The difference between these two is this is the IP address for your whole house or wherever you are. This is your modem's IP address that you can be found on the internet, and this is your computers. All the computers in your house will have a different IP address assigned, but they will all reach out to the public internet from this IP address. So that's the difference. If you have a service hosted on your IP address, let's say you're hosting a web server and you have it on port 8080. You are going to have to go into your router and forward port 8080 to an internal server or an internal computer that has a web server hosted on port 8080. So this, let's say it was forwarded in my router configuration to 10.1.1:8080. So when I type this in, it contacts my router and says, hey, I need this port. And the router's like, this port is hosted here, so it'll send me to that machine, basically. And that's how it works. Also, a lot of people have issues where it's working one time, where you port forward and it works successfully, then a few days later it's not working anymore. That is because ISPs use something called dynamic addresses. This is not yours forever. This can change, let's say, when there's a power outage or whenever they want to change it. So you need to make sure that you always are checking your public IP address because it will change depending on your ISP. Another type of IP address that you can get for business solutions, or you can get on some residential plans for an extra cost per month, is a static IP address where they assign you an IP address knowing you're going to host stuff, and they will keep that locked to your modem so it will never change. So just make sure if you're using a dynamic address, which is basically everyone is using unless you have purchased a static IP address, always check it if your services aren't working. Check that IP and make sure it's correct. So that's basically port forwarding in a nutshell. If you have any questions, just comment down in the comment section, like this video, share it with all of your friends. And there is a great website. I think it's some kind of website. How to forward a port. I think it's this website where you can go in and look for certain type of routers. Yes, here it is, list of routers. You can go to your router and it'll tell you how to port forward. Close. Darn all these. Let's just say this. And then it should give you a tutorial of how to port forward. Yes, here it is. So this is a great, if you get lost and you can't figure it out, this website is portforward.com is always available for you. Or if it's just not working, you can comment down in the comment sections and I can help you troubleshoot whenever I get a chance. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope there are going to be some channel changes soon to come, and I hope you guys have a great day.